Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Divulgence. Today, I'm very excited to welcome author, key member of the White House Faith Council, and the founder of Pastors for Trump, Jackson Lahmeyer. Jackson, how are you, my friend? Nice to meet you.
I am doing very well. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate it.
So, first of all, I guess maybe why don't you give us a little bit of your background so we can kind of get to know you a little bit before we get into some of the many things that you're a part of.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, married to my wife, Kendra. We've got 5 kids, ranging from 6 to 16, so we're busy. She's very busy with all of that, and we serve as the pastors of Sheridan Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as Oklahoma City. And yeah, you mentioned some of the things during the 24 campaign. I led the coalition of Pastors for Trump, part of the White House Faith Office, the National Faith Advisory Board, and I'm a big time sports fan. So, we got religion and politics over here, but I'm a big sports guy as well. And so, yeah, it's just a little bit about me.
Did you enjoy the Olympics?
Well, the little bit that I got to watch,
Okay.
super excited about Team USA taking on and beating Canada, actually.
Yeah,
And so
you
that
guys got
was
us there.
exciting.
Yeah. For sure. That's great. So, geez, where to start? So, I guess maybe since a lot of your work has been, I could be wrong, but a lot of your work has been in support of Trump, and a lot of your recent work, obviously, is been in line or a part of the Trump campaigns, as you said. So, when did you first start supporting Donald Trump? I guess maybe that's a fair question to start with.
That was whenever I was finishing up my master's degree at Oral Roberts University. President Trump, then Mr. Trump, came down the escalator, and I was a supporter from day one, and never looked back, never wavered in my support or anything like that. Supported him during his first term, supported him during, obviously, his second, the in between 1 and 2, and so yeah, I'm an OG. I'm an OG guy on the Trump train.
Fair enough. Good. I mean, good for you, because obviously there's politics. I mean, politics are always wild, but I mean, it seems like they're more wild when you're going through it. But it seems like his first year has just been pretty crazy. So
an understatement.
Yeah, and there's been the talk of the MAGA civil war and the issues with MAGA and some Republicans kind of pulling off and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to see that you're going ride or die right now. If you don't mind me asking a little bit about when it comes to religion, do you and Trump share the same religion? Because I know there's this and forgive my ignorance, but I know there's the NAR Christian that's been obviously a big rising. Is that what you'd say you're officially a part of, or how do you identify, and how do you identify with Trump when it comes to that, if you don't mind?
So I pastor Sheridan Church here in Tulsa. We're a non-denominational church. We're not affiliated with any denomination or organization. I went to Oral Roberts University. It's a Pentecostal charismatic university here in Tulsa. So that's how I would, if I was to classify myself, other than just being a Christian. I'm a Christian first. Other than just being a follower of Christ, you start classifying a little bit. I'm in the Pentecostal charismatic camp is where I would land. Obviously, I wouldn't call myself NAR. I may get labeled that by others who are trying to disparage me, but I wouldn't, self-describe to be in that camp. When it comes to President Trump is definitely a Christian. I know him and know his family very well. Pastor Paula White has been his pastor for over 20 years, much longer than the relationship that I have had with him. And so President Trump would also not probably classify himself in any denomination per se. He's a follower of Jesus. And that would be how he would describe it. So, yeah, I mean, NAR, it's usually used as a negative term. I know people in the movement. I'm friends with people in the movement, but I wouldn't classify myself as a part of that movement.
Okay. and I'm not very familiar with that movement either, but I have noticed that it is something that is becoming a little more on the forefront sometimes. I
There's good
think,
and there's bad, just like everything
right.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, um, I'm trying to think of some names like Lauren Boebert, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, and even I think Charlie Kirk may have been a part of that.
Like I said, they label
Whether that's
people.
true or not,
Yeah.
or a label, I'm not sure. Right. So, um, what do you think the negative aspects are of this NAR movement? If you don't mind, if we just go there real quick. I
Well,
know it
with
seems to cause a lot of controversy, and that's people love the controversy, right? So obviously, the spotlight kind of shines right on that when a fire gets cooking. What are your thoughts on that, Jackson?
Well, the unfortunate thing, and it's also a fortunate thing. So with the NAR, there's a heavy emphasis upon the gift of prophecy. So the prophetic movement is strong within the NAR. The problem is you have a lot of people who claim to be prophets that are actually not prophets. And so when you have a bunch of people running around, you could call it unregulated, unchecked. The reason why, denominations can be a good thing is because they can handle people within their organization, right? So like, let's say the Southern Baptist Convention. Well, if you have, a pastor going rogue and embarrassing the Southern Baptists, what can they do? They can discipline or they can remove, right? Well, when you're an unorganized movement like the NAR, there is no discipline that you can administer to some crazy person saying they're a part of your movement, saying things that are not true. You can't discipline that person and you can't remove that person. It's a movement, not an organization. So that is some of the biggest issues with it, is because there's no set standard. This is what we believe as NAR, like as Roman Catholics, this is what we believe. As Southern Baptists, this is what we believe. Well, that's not there with NAR. So you can claim to be a part of it and misrepresent it, or you could get thrown into it as a negative and say, I actually don't believe all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's the issue. It's not an organization. It's not a denomination. It's a movement. And movements don't have hierarchy. They don't have structures. And that's the trouble with it. So that's how the crazies fit in very well there, because they go unregulated.
Would you agree that I think probably going back to the first Trump campaign, do you think that was, maybe for lack of a better word, responsible for putting so much fuel in their gas tank, and now the NRA is more well known than it was before? Or is that more of a myth? Or
I think that's a myth. I mean, NAR was very strong before President Trump ever became a political figure. Obviously, many in that movement latched on to the bandwagon, I guess is what you could say, politically speaking, and got maybe notoriety in a different area. But within like Christian circles, especially the Pentecostal charismatic circles, those are very well known individuals, which they benefited President Trump. You could say more than what President Trump benefited them. President Trump needed the evangelical vote in that segment of Christianity to get him across the finish line. And so, did they benefit from President Trump becoming elected? Yes. But I'll tell you, he couldn't have got there without them in the first place.
That's interesting. Okay. Why don't we talk a little? Let's start with Pastors for Trump. So you're the founder. That's an amazing accomplishment. What was the story behind the founding of that, and what what is the duty or goals of Pastors for Trump?
Yeah, well, that was
or is it goal completed already?
Goal's done. Mission unless he decides, hey, we're going to run it back. If he says we're running it back, then but that
you're running on the field with them, right?
I don't foresee that happening. Maybe another Trump though. We'll keep the brand. There are some other Trumps out there that
That's
day.
fair. That's fair.
So 2021, 2022, I developed a really good relationship with the Trump family. Don Jr., Eric, and Laura, they come to my church every year. And so we developed a good relationship. And through that came the launching of Pastors for Trump as a recognizing if President Trump is going to get reelected, it's going to take the evangelicals turning out en masse. You have to realize in America, the evangelicals are the largest voting bloc by far. There's not a stronger voting bloc than evangelicals. The problem is evangelicals have very poor voter turnout. So the idea was, how do you get the largest voting bloc in America to turn out and vote en masse? Because we knew that if evangelicals voted, 9 out of 10 are going to vote for the Republican nominee, being Donald Trump. They're not going to vote. The Democratic platform of today has irreconcilable differences with the evangelicals. There's just the evangelical is not going to vote for a Democrat. It's just not going to happen because the value systems they do not mesh. So if they're not going to vote for Democrats, but they don't turn out to vote, it's as if they kind of voted for the Democrat, right? And so that was our job. Our job was to mobilize pastors, because how could you get evangelicals who sit in the pews to turn out to vote? Well, most respect and listen to their pastor. Most do. Not all, but most do. And so we didn't ask pastors to come out and endorse President Trump. They could if they wanted to. That was up to their own decision making. Our ask was pretty simple. Will you simply push your congregation just to go vote and to vote their values? And we knew what that meant. Okay. If they go vote their values, they're going to vote for the Republican nominee, and that would be Donald Trump. And so we had over 10,000 pastors, all 50 states. Now, our primary focus was the swing states. We weren't too concerned about my state, Oklahoma. We were pretty confident Oklahoma was going for President Trump. We also didn't spend any time, in California. We were pretty confident California was going to go for Harris. And so we spent all of our time and our effort, our energy in the swing states, and it worked. Evangelicals turned out en masse. 9 out of 10 did vote for President Trump in the 2024 election, and that helped get him across the finish line. And because of that, he kept a promise that he made to all the pastors on the campaign trail. He said, if y'all get me elected again, I will do something no president has ever done. I will start a faith office in the White House, not an initiative. Other presidents have done that. This will be a standalone office in the West Wing. And President Trump, he's a man of his word. He did it. And so that's the story behind Pastors for Trump.
Wow. I guess that takes us right to, so would that be the White House Faith Council?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Faith Office Council. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to there. So let's start with, what is your role with the Faith Council?
Yeah, so I act as an advisor. I'm on the National Faith Advisory Board as well, and an advisor there. And so basically, a lot of times we bring up pastors. I mean, in the first year, we've brought up over 2,000 pastors to the White House. Now, think about that. That's a lot of pastors coming to the White House in 1 year.
And sorry to interrupt. So, these are like official visits, or what are these? Okay.
Yeah. So these are official visits to be briefed on, what issues are happening, like right now. What are some of the problems we face? What are the solutions that we're working on? How could we partner from, federal government level down to houses of worship? And then, one of the exciting things, it doesn't happen every time, which, it'd be great if it did. But sometimes POTUS will say, who's there? And, they'll say, it's, 25 pastors. I'll bring them in the Oval. And then, that group will go in the Oval and pray for I'm sure you've seen the pictures. There's pictures
of a few
groups, and this happens quite frequently, actually. Most of those are not planned. Most of those are, the president wanting, and the thing, people try to give him a hard time. He wants pastors at the White House. He is the one who determines if they come in the Oval or not. And he's the one asking for prayer. And so as a pastor, I like it that we have a president that wants to be prayed for. There's nothing we can do for him now. We can't rally our base to vote for him, like I said, unless he decides to, run again. But the odds of that are very low. And so that's part of it. We have pastors there, and just connecting ministries with the White House, working on the issues such as protecting religious freedom that had been highly violated by Barack Obama and accelerated under Joe Biden, specifically targeting Christians through the IRS, the DOJ, the ATF,
Okay.
the FBI. And so the Faith Office has worked very hard on this. There is an official landing page at the White House website where there is a list that goes forever, it seems like, of cases of discrimination against Christians under Obama and under Biden that the Trump administration has rectified or is working to rectify.
Now, this really interests me because this is actually something that I haven't heard too much about. So what? Let's start with. I mean, I assume that this is kind of the biggest issue that you have on the forefront of the council, I would think, right?
Sure.
The DOJ is involved, the FBI would probably be involved, the IRS. So going back a few administrations, what was being done in the discrimination of Christianity? Because that seems, you just think that wouldn't be something that Joe Biden or Obama would do, but when you pick a side, often you kind of don't see what the bad in your side. So whether it be Biden opening the border wide open, or Obama's deportations, or his drone strikes and innocent murders, some people just don't see that, right? So
Sure.
can you get into what it was in this arena that was going on during those administrations?
Yeah, so the federal government used different agencies. I listed a few of them: FBI, ATF, DOJ, IRS. IRS primarily. Most of it came through the IRS, and this is where the big fight is right now. And so, for example, during the 2024 campaign, on the IRS website, you could go and you could report a church for political engagement, okay? So my church, Sheridan Church, we were reported over 2,000 times to the IRS because, yours truly was leading pastors for Trump, right? And so they were trying to use what is called the Johnson Amendment against my church and then against me, and so report the church. Well, what we discovered was that the IRS was targeting and auditing churches that were being reported for political engagement, right? But here was the thing: it's a one-sided auditing and discovery. It was against churches hosting, say, Republicans. Democrats who were going to speak at black churches.
Yes.
Well, guess
Okay.
what? Oh, okay. So you get where I'm going with this, don't
I
you?
can see where you're going, but please tell
They
the rest of us.
They wouldn't receive an audit. They'd get a federal grant. Okay, so now we have something that's going on here. That's on the church level. Conservative pastors being audited at rates that you couldn't even imagine because it's a small number. And then, especially if they were Trump supporters having their lives. We got one here in Oklahoma, a guy that we're working with. His entire life got turned upside down. He's a Trump supporting pastor in Oklahoma through the ATF. We're working to rectify that one now. So you have, when I say just cases galore of this, the IRS, you remember probably how the IRS was targeting, you remember, members of the Tea Party during
Right. Okay.
Obama's reign.
A
So
little
the
while
same
back.
exact kind of specific targeting of what you could call people who were a thorn in the side of, say, Obama or Biden, and that happened to be conservative evangelical Christians. And so, great example of this. It's at a macro level. Most of the damage was done at micro levels, like I mentioned, the pastor here in Oklahoma. But those are small cases. Those don't make news. Those don't make me, that doesn't stir anything up. But you have two universities, Grand Canyon University, which is a Christian university here in Phoenix, Arizona. And it received, during the Biden administration, the largest fine in U.S. history from the IRS. Christian University, received the largest fine in U.S. history, once again over political engagement, right? And, and I look at other universities like Harvard, Yale, they're awfully politically engaged.
For sure.
They
For
just
sure.
have a different swing. So Grand Canyon receives the largest fine in U.S. history by Biden's IRS and administration. Donald Trump undid that. That fine is completely washed away. Liberty University, the largest Christian university actually in the world because of their online enrollment. Liberty University received a similar fine to Grand Canyon University, not as large, under Biden's administration. Donald Trump undid that one as well. So it's numerous, whether you're talking about universities, churches, or individuals. So it spans that. So one of the ways that we're making sure that never happens again is now there is a faith director in every single agency. There's a faith director at the IRS. There's a faith director at the DOJ. There's a faith director at the Department of Interior. There's you name the agency. There's a faith director there to make sure that these agencies are not going rogue and targeting people of faith like they had been. And so that's obviously we're only a year in. So, you're talking about compiling all this,
Still
vetting
fresh.
all of it. It's a ton. And we're just scratching the surface. And I think over the next, say, 3 years, I think we can have a lot of good results in regards to making sure that, listen, just as nobody should get in between a person and their doctor, nobody should get in between a person and God, especially the U.S. federal government. It needs to stay out of that lane. And unfortunately, Obama and Biden, they kind of had different ideas. And so now we have to build up safeguards to make sure it never happens again because, President Trump's not going to be president forever, right? Contrary to what some crazy liberals think, he's a king and he's going to rule with tyranny until he dies. There will be a new president in 2028, and it could be a Democrat, it could be a Republican, who knows? We just want to make sure that over the next 3 years, we've put the safeguards in to make sure we don't go back to what had been taking place.
Fair enough. That's very interesting. A word that comes to mind is obviously retribution. I'm just I'll ask you plainly, what are your thoughts on Donald Trump when it comes to his retribution? Because I think a lot of people say that he's on like a retribution streak. Some argue that some of the investigations and or charges he's thrown out there are vindictive. And he just, what was it? I forget where he was talking. I think it was, it was the, for example, at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, he made the statement that, it's great that she could forgive him. And he kind of just said, I can't forgive my enemies. I hate my enemies. And, comments like that and moves like that. What are your thoughts on that? If you don't mind me asking.
No, President Trump reminds me of, I believe it was General Patton, who said, I sure hope God has mercy on our enemies because I'm not, he's a leader of justice. And so we have to separate something here. You have to separate the role that Trump has as president of the United States and then the role that Trump has as being an individual human being, right? So according to the Bible, and obviously I'm a Christian, so, I live my life through the lens of the Bible. That's just how I do. The Bible defines the role of civil government, that God is the creator of civil government, and that God has given us civil government to wield the sword of justice, that our leaders are God's representatives here on earth to bring about justice in this life. Now, God will bring about justice in the next life. You will stand before God in the next life. But in this life, you have governing entities that are designed by God to wield the sword of justice. And Paul says that the role of government is to punish evildoers and to protect good citizens. And Paul says, if you do wrong, you should be terrified of government. You should be absolutely terrified of government. And then Paul says, and if you don't do anything wrong, you shouldn't be afraid at all. because these people have been in place by God. That's their role. Now, it doesn't mean they do it flawlessly. Many of them are corrupt as all get out, as we just talked about, Biden and Obama. And so with Donald Trump, he is to wield the sword of justice if he's going to carry out God's design for government. What is justice? Justice is bringing about a right to a wrong. And so evildoers in America should be terrified under a Trump administration. They should be absolutely afraid. They should hide. They shouldn't listen. If you're doing wrong, you should be terrified to be in this country. That's the role of government. My role as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, I'm to love everybody, whether they're good doers, wrongdoers. I don't care what, my role is not to bring about justice. That's called vigilante justice. I am not a governing authority. I'm a pastor. I am to preach the gospel, lead people to Jesus, love on people. That's the role of Jackson Lahmeyer, the pastor. That is not Donald Trump's role as president of the United States. He is to wield the sword of justice to punish wrongdoers and to protect good citizens. And so when people talk about, well, that's not very Christian of him to go about and bring so-and-so under investigation or such and such. Well, no, I believe he's doing what he's supposed to do in regards to justice. If these people did wrong, which I do believe they did. Listen, I'm of the opinion, I wish Donald Trump would have a little bit more retribution take place. I want to see more of these criminals get arrested. Listen, this is coming from me. I want to see the whole Epstein files. I release the whole thing, and those that are the evildoers, whoever they may be, whether they're on my team, the role of justice, that's why she's supposed to be blind, right? She's supposed to be blind.
You're supposed to be.
Now, listen, all human justice is vain. There's no such thing as perfect human justice. We're all biased. We all have agendas. The only pure justice any of us will ever receive is when we stand before God. And if you stand before God on your own doings, you're in a lot of trouble. You stand before God with the finished work of Jesus Christ, he'll be your advocate, you'll be just fine. But in this life, governing bodies are to administer justice. So law and order, that's a godly thing. That's not a tyrannical thing. That's a godly thing. If it's administered right, obviously you can abuse your power, and so many rulers and kings and presidents and have. But when you hear Donald Trump is rounding up illegals and said that's his job, and he campaigned on that.
Yep.
He like he did not tell us he wasn't going to do it. He literally said we're going to have the largest mass deportation ever. We haven't had that yet, so I'm hoping we do. But when you see him rounding up illegals and sending it, that's one, that's his job. But two, he didn't cloak us and say, I won't round them up. I won't send them up. He literally said that's what he was going to do, and he won overwhelmingly. It shows you where the American people are. Overwhelming. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was a bloodbath. And so, people try to bring that stuff up, and you're a pastor. Shouldn't you be spiritually advising him? Yeah, that's his job. He is the president of the United States. He's not the pastor of the United States. He's the president. He's the commander in chief. And so, that's obviously I'm going down a rabbit trail here.
I appreciate these honest answers because I guess before we jump into something else, I know you have a tight schedule, so we'll jump into something else. But what about as a pastor, as a Christian, as a man? What about the way that he has treated women over his life?
Are you referring to the multiple marriages, affairs? What are you
all of it?
specifically
The affairs, the marriages, the cheating, the whether you think he is an abuser or a rapist or not. Obviously, he gets into a lot of trouble. He was a womanizer. The way he, frankly, talks about women. The women's U.S. team deny they're not going to the White House because of how he treat. I think it's because of how he treats women, and his comment to them. All of that and more.
Yeah, I would say obviously Trump, the New York Playboy. Lifestyle wise, I wouldn't advocate for that at all. I'd call that sin. And so would he now. He's aged and he's looked back, and nobody gets married with the idea, well, I'd like to have an affair and have a divorce. That's not the way anybody starts, but it does happen, right? And so when I look at President Trump, where he was, where he is, I say, man, God's really done a work in, regardless of his past indiscretions, mistakes, and sin. Of course he can, because if past mistakes disqualified you from future use, all of us would be wiped
That's
away.
a fair statement.
I wouldn't be allowed to pastor.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be allowed to do.
I wouldn't be allowed to be
podcast.
talking to you right now.
So, So you have to have the sense of, like, now obviously you bring up people accusing him of abuse and rape, and I personally, I don't buy any of that. If I bought it for a second, I wouldn't be doing what I do. Like if I bought it for a millisecond, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Now, am I saying that Trump has not been a womanizer? No, it's obvious. I mean, we know those things, and yet God decided to use him. And which I'm okay with, because David was a womanizer in the Bible, and God used him. And God called David a man after his own heart. And David had some problems, and so did his son Solomon. Solomon liked women. Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines, and I think he was crazy for that. I got one wife, and I can't imagine 1,000, right? So God can use people despite their shortcomings, if we may call it that. But on regards to the abuse and the rape, if I bought any of that, I wouldn't have anything. I wouldn't have anything to do with Pastors for Trump by any stretch of me, because that's evil. Rape, abuse is wrong, absolutely evil. And but I don't buy it. I think it's politically driven because of, just entering into that arena.
Yeah, these days it's really hard. I try not to take sides at all, but it is very hard to know what is real, what is completely real, and what is false, and what is completely false. So I appreciate that. Moving on. What about? I think he's made these comments at least 2 times. But what are your thoughts about Trump's statement saying that he's not heaven bound, and he may not make it into heaven?
So the one on Air Force One, I remember. You have to watch the context of what he said. So they clip it to where he said that. Okay. But he said, I could. I don't remember it was something like, I could cure cancer, and
I still won't get into heaven, right?
Yeah. And he was talking about how the media and the Democrats, no matter what he does. So the context of that was, President Trump, contrary to what some people think, he's actually really funny, and he probably jokes 90% of the time that I have been with him. It is a humorous type. Now, obviously, if you're punching him in the face, he punches right back. Joking stops. You know what I'm saying? But those are things that he was like joking. And like Donald Trump, I'm telling you, he's made the decision. Jesus Christ is the Lord of his life. He made that decision, I want to say 25 years ago. Doesn't mean he's followed it, by dotting every I and crossing every T in his life, but neither have I, and I'm a pastor. All right, I'm a New York playboy or a politician. I'm a pastor, and I still haven't. And so he's a Christian. He's a follower of Jesus. He's born again. And those statements, there's sometimes I feel like, I don't know if I'm getting into heaven, and I don't make the decisions that he makes. But that one, the Air Force One, I don't know the other one you're referring to. I know the Air Force One where he was speaking. He was talking about no matter what he does, it's never enough. It's always wrong. And he was joking about Democrats in the media.
Gotcha.
Other one, I can't answer the other one because
honestly, I someone else showed it to me. It was I honestly can't remember it either. So, but that's the one I remember the most. So let's stick with that one. Okay.
This is the viral one, right? It was the one that went viral.
It was definitely the viral one because I saw it many times.
Don't you know him? And it's like, can't you talk to him?
I bet you got a lot of that.
I'm like, he knows. We've had that conversation. I guess. I don't know what to tell you. He's joking.
Yeah. Okay. I have one more little topic to get into, and that is Israel. Trump is obviously big on Israel, it seems. He has
I wouldn't
supported
say it
them.
seems. I would say he is.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate you giving us that. He definitely seems to. He definitely loves Israel. He's all the money, all the weapons that he's given now, to the point where the states might not even be prepared for a war with Iran because he's given away so much to Israel. The very questionable things that Netanyahu has done in his career, and Trump getting up there and saying, "Pardon this man." The Kushner connection, a lot of connections, lots of connections.
Yeah.
I mean, Epstein was Jewish, obviously. I'm sure. We don't have to get into that today, but as Israel as a whole, it's clear that he loves Israel. So, what are your thoughts on that? When it seems, no, again, it's clear that he should be. I'm just trying to be very polite. You're a pastor, and I don't want to offend you.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot to offend me, I promise.
Okay. All right, man. It's clear that a lot needs to be done at home and not abroad. And I'll even go as far as to say, like, there's the rumors or the conspiracy theories that he's converted to Judaism, and some people believe that because of how loyal he appears to be to Israel. Can you talk on that for a few minutes?
Yeah. He is not converted to Judaism. So we can squash that for all the conspiracies out there. Is he loyal to Israel? Yes. I mean, that's like I said, that's not like I think he is, or it kind of seems like, no, listen, he's not loyal in the sense of like he's controlled by Israel. That's what some people are trying to insinuate. Tell you one thing I know about Donald Trump. Nobody controls Donald Trump but Donald Trump. That's why his staff gets so frustrated with him, because they tell him one thing and to do this, and then he does whatever he wants. And sometimes it works out great. Other times he gets himself in a little bit of hot water that his staff tried to, warn against, prevent, and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm a supporter of Israel. So I'll just come out and be, very open and honest about it. I'm an evangelical supporter of Israel, and classifying myself a little bit here. Does that mean I agree with everything the government of Israel does? Of course not. I don't even agree with everything my own government does, and we're in control right now. You know what I'm saying? So, like, no. It's like, do you support it? Listen, I can support the Jewish people without supporting every decision the Israeli government makes or decides to do. Like when Obama or Biden was in office, I was a supporter and lover of America. I just didn't like who was in office. And, I can go back to the Bible. In the Old Testament, the state of Israel, the nation of Israel, about 95% of all their kings were wicked and evil. About 95% of all their government officials were wicked and evil, yet God was still in covenant with them. And God still claimed them. These are my people. They may be a wild bunch. These are still my people. And so for me, I support the nation of Israel from a biblical standpoint, but that doesn't really matter as much when it comes to the political side. It's like, well, that's your biblical interpretation. Like, that is mine. Right. Yes. From the political standpoint, or you call it the national security standpoint, I do think we have to realize we have, and I'm not trying to like pick on any one group, but I am going to pick on a group. We have an enemy that has been our greatest enemy since the 7th century, and is still today, and that's Islam. Islam is our greatest threat to the West. It always has been since its inception, and it still is today. And so Israel is like a speed bump on the highway of expansion of Islam. It's just the reality of it. Israel is not perfect, but they are much more closely aligned to Western civilization than the surrounding countries that are around them. And speaking of Iran, Iran
Mhm.
is the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. The people of Iran, I can't even imagine what they're going through. They all live in poverty. They live oppressed. You have the Ayatollah, who is deranged and crazy and demonic. And so, if we have to go to war with Iran, obviously we would prefer not to. I prefer to do what we did, where we just like flew in, dropped a bunch of bombs, and got out. I dare not want to see any boots on the ground. I will say this, though. The United States of America, to my understanding, and I'm no military expert, has never put any boots on the ground on behalf of Israel. Have we funded? Yes. Have we supported? Yes. Have we trained? Yes. But what I have been told by people who are in, military area, we've never put any boots on the ground for Israel, which means we've never, quote unquote, lost a life directly. Maybe indirectly we have, but directly for the cause of Israel. And so I'm a supporter of Israel. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that Israel does. I think they need to really improve on their messaging of what they're doing, why they're doing it, because this messaging is everything. It
Yeah.
sways people one way or another. I think Qatar is a major funder against Israel, and a lot of money Qatar has poured into right-wing influencers and has helped sway this conversation. Because it used to be you could take for granted, everyone for the most part, generally speaking, was supporting Israel if you were on the right. Now we're a house divided, right? We're a house divided on the right on this particular issue. So I support Israel not just because I'm a Bible guy, right? I support Israel because I do see them as an ally in an area that they got a rough neighborhood over there. That's a rough neighborhood to.
That's true too. That is true too. Yeah.
It's a rough neighborhood. And so, and there's probably more to it, that things I don't even know in regards to sharing intelligence. I am told that Israel shares intelligence with us in regards to what's happening over there. Do I know that to be a matter of fact? I do not. I'm not in that area. That's what I'm told by people in that area. And so it can make sense to me. But yeah, Trump's a supporter of Israel, didn't convert to Judaism. His son-in-law and his daughter, yes, and the grandchildren, yes. But that's about as much as I know.
Fair enough. Jackson, I know you have a busy schedule, so we'll cut it there. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I would love to have another chat one day.
Let's do it, man. We'll talk about the Epstein files.
That'd be great.
Take 2
Let's
hours,
do
right?
that.
Maybe by the time we do that, they'll release a little more, so we can
a little more. Yeah, maybe another 0.5% or something. Before I let you go, can you just let everyone know where they can find you and anything that you'd like to promote or push out there to people?
Yeah, easy. My website, jacksonlahmeyer.com. Lahmeyer is Lahmeyer. My books are there. My sermons are there. My social media links are there. jacksonlahmeyer.com.
Awesome. Well, again, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I'll be in touch. All right, Jackson?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. You take care. All the best to you.
Be blessed.
All right. Thank you very much. You too. Bye-bye. Well, there we go, guys. Sorry, that was a short one today. He said he didn't have much time today. He's busy schedule. But yeah, that was interesting just to get an idea of his thoughts and feelings on things. Obviously, he knows the Trumps, he knows the Donalds, he knows the playing ground, he knows the religions. Obviously, a lot more I would have liked to have asked him, but we do with what we can. So obviously, he's interested in coming back, so that's good. We can talk Epstein, and maybe we can dig a little deeper into some Donald Trump stuff. But yeah, he seemed very nice. So yeah, it was nice to meet him. Thanks to all the listeners and watchers, all the supporters, everyone out there. Really appreciate it. We are now booking March. We have a few more shows for February for you guys over the next few days, so stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, in the meantime, please subscribe to the Divulgence podcast on YouTube, Rumble. We're getting a lot more people on Rumble. We got the tip jar open there as well. You can also get us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please check out the Scott Horton Academy. I believe right now he's got like a President's Day discount going right now for 30% off. So check out scotthortonacademy.com/divulgence. And yeah, we also are now affiliated with Ollie Demigard. So I will talk more about that soon. But just to throw that out there now, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I guess I'll comment on the Olympic hockey game one more time. Pretty good game. Some bullshit calls, and I feel those bullshit calls, including the giving us a 4-minute penalty, but only giving them a 2-minute penalty for the exact same thing, and then not calling too many men on the ice at a crucial moment. I think that essentially at least handed the USA the opportunity to go to overtime and on 3-on-3, which is bullshit. Should have been 5-on-5. 3-on-3, it's anyone's game when you have a stacked teams like that. So disappointed to say the least, but amazingly happy with the Canadian team winning the silver. So proud of them. And nice to see that Kash Patel is using your guys' taxpayer money, and he could be there as well to slam back some beers and make a fucking fool of himself. So I guess we'll leave it at that for now, guys. All the best to you. Take care. Please subscribe, and we'll talk again soon. All the best.